Stadium rock in the 1970s was loud, cynical, and defined by excess. But cut away from those roaring crowds to the quiet, snow-covered streets of the American Midwest, and you find a completely different rhythm. This is where you find the roots of Dan Fogelberg. He became a multi-platinum superstar, yet his most enduring, deeply emotional songwriting was tied directly to his hometown. That hometown was Peoria, Illinois, in the 1950s. It was a place defined by the turning of the seasons, quiet observation, and a steady, predictable pace of life. His father, Lawrence, was a fixture in the community, an accomplished high school band director and the defining musical force in the Fogelberg house. Growing up as the band director's son meant an early, strict immersion in classical music and daily practice. It was a rigorous foundation that would secretly power his massive commercial success years later. But as a teenager, he rebelled against those formal piano lessons. He gravitated toward the Beatles, folk music, and teaching himself chords on an old Hawaiian slide guitar his grandfather had given him. As his artistic identity began to form, he frequently retreated to the banks of the Illinois River. Sitting between two ancient pines, he used the quiet of nature to process his thoughts. He was caught between two opposing forces. He was a deeply private observer who craved isolation, but he was also a highly ambitious performer who needed an audience to hear his work. That tension broke during a midnight meeting at a college frat party. A young manager named Irving Azoff heard him play, told him he was ready for the big leagues, and convinced him to drop out of the University of Illinois and head west. Leaving Peoria was a geographic necessity. He needed a stage large enough to project his distinctly Midwestern voice to the world. The journey took him from the quiet plains of Illinois straight to the Sunset Strip in Los Angeles. Arriving in the Laurel Canyon scene was an intense culture shock. He was suddenly living among high-powered industry executives and the fast-lane lifestyle of California rock royalty. He quickly integrated into that elite circle. For his breakthrough sophomore album, Souvenirs, he collaborated with heavyweights like Joe Walsh and members of the Eagles. This high-stakes environment forced a rapid musical evolution. He learned to marry his heartfelt acoustic songwriting with highly polished, layered rock production. To survive and thrive in that chaotic scene, he had to rely completely on the disciplined work ethic he absorbed back in his father's house in Peoria. But the fame machine quickly became suffocating. Fiercely protective of his privacy, he deliberately escaped Los Angeles, buying a ranch high up in the rugged isolation of the Colorado Rockies. Returning to a life surrounded by solitary nature fueled his creative output. It culminated in his defining masterwork, the 1981 double album, The Innocent Age. The record was a sprawling, conceptual journey about the realities of aging, the turning of the seasons, and looking back at the simplicity of youth. This grounded, personal perspective resonated with millions of listeners. In an era often defined by restlessness, Fogelberg's return to these foundational themes sent 4 separate singles from the album into the top 20. Those massive hits were actually highly specific, literal letters to his hometown. The holiday classic Same Old Lang Syne documents a completely true chance encounter with an old high school girlfriend at a convenience store on Abington Hill in Peoria. And then there is his most famous acoustic track, Leader of the Band. He wrote it spontaneously as a direct tribute to his aging father. It was an effort to ensure that nothing was left unsaid between two typically stoic Midwestern men. The emotional payoff was immense. Lawrence Fogelberg lived just long enough to hear the song on the radio and experience the public validation of his entire life's work as a teacher. Fogelberg's work remains resonant because he leaned into the specific and the vulnerable. He anchored his career in memories of his family and the exact streets that shaped him. Today, the city of Peoria honors its favorite son with physical memorials sitting peacefully along the banks of the Illinois River and tucked into the woods of Forest Park. These monuments permanently engrave his platinum-selling lyrics back into the exact physical landscape that originally inspired the words. His career demonstrates the power of maintaining a foundational ethos. Rather than chasing every passing trend, he proved that an artist can find success by staying true to their original voice. For Dan Fogelberg, the road may have led to the peaks of global stardom and the heights of the Rocky Mountains, but his soul never really left Peoria behind.